All righty. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Sports to Suits Live, where I'm your host, Amanda Banks, and I am honored to have the opportunity to highlight former athletes or people in the athletic community that are doing some incredible things in the world to date. And today's guest is absolutely no different. I had the honor of meeting this incredible woman in Wilmington, Delaware. So we'll talk a little bit about how our paths crossed. But I could not be more excited to have Miss Valencia Peterson on today, which goes by Coach V. So, Coach V, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be such a fun one and such a needed one. So, for
Yep.
everybody that is tuning in, thank you for being viewers of the show. This is my highlight every single week. So I'm so honored that you spend your time with us on this show. Drop us a comment. We've already got some people tuning in. So we've got Jason Hurley tuning in, which is an awesome listener. He always submits really amazing questions. So I'm excited to see him on. And Patrick Johnson joining in as well, who is also a listener. But if you are tuning in, please let us know that you give us a comment. Let us know that you're diving into this. So excited to be back. But while I'm making sure that all of the technical bits are working, Coach V, can you give us a little bit of a background just about yourself so that the listeners can start getting to know you a little bit?
Sure. So, hello everyone. Coach V. I am in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Presently, where there's a lot going on. So, we're hard at work in the trenches here with our athletes. I started coaching football around 2014. I love football. I hadn't intended to coach football. All I was trying to do was looking for a platform to do violence prevention. I had been doing intervention for a good little while, but I felt behind the eight ball. I just felt like I wasn't getting ahead of things. So I approached the football team, and the coach was like, why not? They were like, they weren't winning. So you needed something. So he decided to go for violence prevention, which is kind of oxymoron. But he went for it. And ever since then, I've been using the medium of football, that particular sport. Although I'm open to other sports, I've been using that medium in particular for violence prevention. And it's been a heck of a ride. And it has just been amazing. The young men I've been able to work with, the coaches I've been able to work with, and some of the sidelines I've been on. It's just been great. An amazing opportunity.
So,
Amazing.
so let's take it back a little bit. Let's take it back to like, how did you get into sports? So you just kind of mentioned kind of getting into football, but as a kiddo, was it something that you were really excited about or passionate about? Like, where did this come from? So share a little bit about also just your background as a human. Like,
Yeah.
where did all that come from?
I really didn't have a whole big passion per se for football. But what I did have a passion for was getting ahead of domestic violence. At a very young age, my father killed my mom. And I tell people all the time that I don't think my dad woke up that morning and decided to just murder my mom. It took me a number of years just dealing with that trauma myself, right? And I started ODAAP in hopes that I could help prevent other young men, taking the same path. Because, like I said, I don't think my dad woke up that morning and was like, I'm going to murder my wife today. There's so many things that go into a person actually committing that crime. And I wanted to help my young men to get ahead of it, to do the prevention of it. And there's been so many remarkable times where young men themselves, not understanding what makes them tick or why they're doing what they're doing, have had aha moments just from our conversations and our program and things of that nature. Now, football is very violent anyway.
Yep.
And more often than not, you'll have somebody telling this young man, you need to play football. You have a temper, and that's understandable, right? But who's telling the young man what to do with his temper off the field? No one. It's almost like using and then letting loose, right? And that's just not healthy. So I felt like football was a beautiful platform for violence prevention, because we didn't have to wonder what it was, right? We were encouraging it. Let's hit
Well, and
somebody.
it's
You
such
know,
a so sports is such an incredible platform. Like,
it is.
and
It
you're
is hands
right. Like
down.
it's almost a universal way to bring people
Yes.
together.
Yes.
Um, and
Yes.
once again, like the work that you're doing is so absolutely amazing, incredible. We've got so many questions that are already coming in with people that want to ask you all sorts of things. But I want to take it to this question right here from Jason, because I think that this kind of plays really nicely into what our conversations should be pretty much centered around, is what are some of the biggest obstacles that you've had to overcome regarding helping change the environment within communities? So to me, sport is a community, right? It's all
Yeah.
of these different people
Yeah.
getting together to celebrate one specific thing. So what are some of the biggest obstacles that you see right now, specifically in sport?
Not taking away the ferociousness and the aggressiveness of sports, but I remember, I have to do coaches trainings. I coach train. I'm the coach. You know what I mean? But not taking away from the aggression in the football, because I love a good hit, hands down. Don't patty cake. You know what I'm saying? Don't hug. Don't be. No. But
we gotta play. Like it's
right,
a play.
But in my line of work, I've done trainings. And because I'm talking about domestic violence and or sexual assault, I'm naturally going to be talking about how you treat women and girls and your significant other. When I've done that, I've had situations where coaches will say, well, if that's the case, I'm an abuser. Okay. And you know what I mean? And this one coach, instead of having an epiphany, he just decided to quit the team. And it's one of those things where I run up into nostalgia. People like doing, the OGs, if you will. They like operating the same way. Change is different. But when Coach V comes on your sideline, you have to be a special kind of person to have me on your sidelines, to be quite honest, because I'm gonna saddle up next to a coach and go, "You all right?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the hardest thing in this community right now is old habits die hard when it comes to things like verbal abuse, and being able to talk to a young man on a field, right? And coach him up, if you will, even if you're yelling a little bit, but not degrading him, making him never want to play the sport again. Like in our community, I find that it's sometimes like old habits die hard, and I think it's important because speaking of sports, right? We are seeing a decline in participation of sports.
Yep.
I mean, I just recently saw on Twitter that one of these schools, they're not even playing football anymore.
Yep.
It's just, and even sports in general, young people aren't participating as much. So we really want to do everything we can to just bring the enjoyment, the fun back into the games. Period.
So why do you think that's happening? So I have so many questions, but why do you think that's happening? So I actually read a study about this as well, and they talked about how like the number one factor in kids under 13 is fun. Like
yes.
It's that simple. They want to play the sport because they want to have fun, not because they necessarily want to compete. These are all things that are part of it. But you just want to freaking have fun.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So what are some additional things that you're seing that, like, I mean, we're going to get,
oh my gosh. I just put a post on Instagram and oh my gosh, I'm getting in trouble here. But I just put a post on Instagram to all my coaches and any coaches. And it was, please let the kids be kids.
Yep.
Please stop trying to live your glory days through the kids. Please leave your anger management class for your anger management class and not on the sidelines. Let the kids be kids. I did a little thing like that because, again, I see so much on the sidelines. I really want them to have a great experience of community, of oneness, of brotherhood, of having each other's back. Those are beautiful things for a community and can expand to another community that they actually live in. Like one of the things I love to do is take my young men to feed the homeless and do volunteer work. Well, they do that together. It just brings such a tight bond with them. And it's off the field and developing them holistically. That's what I love to see. but the sport gives us the platform for that, which
It
is
does. And so
beautiful.
in
It's
your
beautiful.
experience, like in your experience, how many kiddos, because I was one of these kids, right? So gymnastics to me was almost like an escape mechanism to some degree. There
Definitely.
was a lot going on, at home and
Hmm.
within the family. And
Yeah.
so gymnastics to me was just an escape mechanism. And I was very blessed to have amazing, amazing coaches that were very supportive and incredible teammates. But Coach V, how many of these kids are you seeing that, may be using sport as a way to have a healthy relationship that they're maybe not seeing at home? Do you see that
Almost,
often?
almost all of them.
Yes.
Almost all of them. And don't even talk. Don't get me started about Philadelphia. You know, the question earlier from Jason: what gets in the way of this community? The difficulties. I'll back up a little bit and say money in politics is a real problem. You know, and our young people, a lot of them are playing sports to get out. Okay, I recently just did something with the Eagles with Miles Sanders and AJ with the recreation center where like over 100 shots were fired. And we wanted to create a safe space for that, for the kids to come back to the recreation center, you know? And it's one of those things where all those kids, we want to get out. We want to do so up for our mother and we want to buy a house for our mom. We want to go to the NFL. Well, we know the reality of all that. But
Yep.
regardless, it's something for them that they want. It's a hope. It's a goal, you know, with the healthy balance, of course, because how many really make it to the NFL? We know that.
Well,
But
it's
to
a
have that
family.
inspiration of wanting to,
Yes.
as opposed to, I don't care about anything. I don't care about life. I don't care about you. If I hurt you, I mean, choose, you know, we're going to go with let's have a goal here, you know, let's have something to focus on that's positive. But a lot of our kids are looking for a way out, a huge way out.
So there are a lot of coaches that tune into this show. So there's a lot of student athletes and there's a lot of coaches that tune into this show. And so I know that we could probably dive super far into this topic, but let's
Everywhere.
just give them a little bit of a taste, right? Like from your perspective, what are some ways that they could help bring some of this positivity, some of this healthy, safe environment into their communities, their sports teams, their leagues? What are some things that they can do or some ways that you're seeing the market kind of shift, because there's a huge shift in sports right now. So what are some things that they could maybe take away from the conversations on things that you've seen that have helped positively impact these teams, communities, and individuals?
You know, I'll tell someone in a heartbeat, relationships. You know, I did, you know, we got the RPOs, I did the 3 R's, you know, relationship, rewards, and relate, you know, regulate. And one of the biggest things that I'm doing and focusing on right now is regulation, as you know, de-escalation and regulation. And I love the idea of coaches just taking the time to know their players. You know, by position, if it's the O line, D line, whatever, taking that time. Like I always tell my coaches, listen, before you even start practice, let's have a round table. How's everybody doing? What's going on? Right? Because now we're communicating that you're much bigger than this game we're playing. We
Yep.
care about you, right? Let's have a check-in real quick. And I think a lot of coaches are starting to do more of that mindfulness, right? Let's have a minute where we're breathing. You know, let's tune in. A lot more coaches are doing that. This is becoming more of a trend, and I think it's amazing, and it needs to happen. You know, a kid comes on the field, he's bringing a lot of pressure with him on that field. He's not focused, right? I mean, I can only speak in football terms, right? So my guy,
Well, I
look,
would imagine that this is the same in all sports, but
all
also
sports,
in
right?
business, right? Like there's a lot of this stuff happening in business as well, where we're having to recalibrate
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
certain things within organizations, right? And I think that this
Yeah,
is one of those things.
right.
So
So
football terms or not, it applies for
that's true
probably
too.
everybody
That's
tuning into
true.
the conversation.
But see, to me, I'm gonna tell you what a perfect situation is to me. Oh, I got so many of this, guys. I'm full of it, honestly, because I've seen so many things work, right? And let's just paint a picture, right? A young man comes on the field. You know, we have a good, we have a amazing game coming up. It's a big rivalry. You know what I mean? Coach is focused. You know, we got to win this game. This is how we're going to win it. You know, but my young man comes on the field and he's distracted. Something's gone on at home. or something's gone on. Maybe he's hungry. Who knows? Who knows? So he's not focused on the field. He's just not there. It's hard in the middle of a practice to stop and go, oh, let me focus on this one kid, right? That's hard. But if you do something in the beginning where you check in, now you're going to start to, get a little regulation going, right? And if you know, like I know, you ought to have an ODAAP connected with your team because what ODAAP does, and this is to my coaches will tell you, my crew will come on the field, stand next to a young man and go, how you doing, my man? And he's like, I'm not doing so good. What's wrong with you? But see, this is all while practice is going on. You see what I'm saying? We're on the sideline, me or somebody else, and just talking to the players until it's time for them to get into the, you got to get back, coach. You need a coach like that.
Well, all you're supporting the coach.
Help regulate.
Yeah, like you're taking all of that pressure off. You're supporting the coach. You're supporting the athletes. Exactly. You're supporting the community. Yeah. And like you're kind of yeah. I absolutely love your personality. So like you're giving a bit of fun too. Yeah. Like you're injecting like just this beautiful ecosystem. And I mean,
I'm serious. Like going on the sideline, just standing next to a young man. Oh, I'm bursting with stories, and I shouldn't be right now. But you
should share. I mean, that's what we're here for.
Recently, we had a shooting here in Philadelphia. Boys were coming off the field of Roxborough High School from a scrimmage. And I was so heartbroken, I was so heartbroken. One of the little boys, 14-year-old died. And I just woke up in tears, honestly. I mean, because I'm in the trenches, I'm with my players, and I just woke up heartbroken. But I decided to send a message to the shooters. And I said, this message is for all the shooters, right? I'd like to apologize for everybody who failed you. I'd like to apologize for how you somehow got missed. Because just like my dad, that little boy didn't wake up that way. He never came out the womb that way. Never came out the womb that way. There was a series of events that led up to that act. And as hard as it is, and I give my condolences to the family again, we have to come full circle, and sports is a beautiful platform to do it. It's a beautiful platform. And here's the thing. So after being heavy, I put on this shirt that said free hugs. And I went on the football field. And that's all I did. That's all I did.
This is going to be a conversation. And
I stood right there. And I stood next to my players, 7 feet, lineman, huge. And I just stood next to him. He said, you really giving out free hugs? I said, you better bet I am.
So Mukesh, this is what it's all about.
He came right in there, he came right in there.
Collaborate for development of football in India.
Oh my gosh.
And this is the thing that I love about a platform. And so I want to kind of I want to divert a little bit because you and I share in this incredible journey together. And I get asked it all the time. I know you do too, about TEDx. And there are a lot of people that tune into this show that talk about or that want to become speakers or want to join, to share their voice or use their words to help impact a community. And we shared in this beautiful bond of this crazy TEDx experience. Yeah. And so I would love to know from your perspective so that anybody that's tuning in can understand what process you went through and how you became a TEDx speaker. Because you and I are not professional speakers. Meaning
no.
That is not, I didn't wake up one day and was like, you know what, I want to be a TEDx speaker. We were not professional speakers, but that our paths crossed for that specific moment. So there's a lot of people that ask, how did that happen? How do I put something together? What are the things that you learned from that experience? And so before we jump into that, I want to drop a banner here for anybody that's tuning in. I'll drop a comment below, but copy and paste this and save this in your browser. Go back and check out. This link goes to Coach V's TEDx, and it is such a beautiful, beautiful conversation. And so wanted to take a moment to do that before we dove into it. But so Coach V, how did you get into this whole TEDx ecosystem and become a TEDx speaker?
Okay, this is interesting, guys, because Reggie Walker, who was an NFL player for 7 years, he and I met on a platform together in a speaking event. And I saw that he was trying to do something with the curriculum. And I was listening to him and I was like, that sounds really good. But I think that if he did this and that, it would be better. Somehow we connected in the background. And a few months ago, before the TEDx, he called me and says, Coach V, I want you to do a TEDx. And I was like, a TEDx? He was the one that really pushed me to do the TEDx. He connected me. I think he basically signed me up. And I just showed
That was Dan Young for me.
Really? So what are we saying? You have to know somebody? I don't know. But
yeah.
I had no intentions of doing a TEDx. Not even in my mind. But Reggie Walker, really, he was the one that said, I think you need to be heard. And I was like, okay, what do I do? And he pretty much set me up for that. Again, like you said, Amanda, we're just normal. We're just ordinary people, right?
Well, but this goes back to the sports community, right? Reggie and I
there you go. There you go.
It's a community. It's about opening the door, creating opportunity, having conversations, and pushing people to do things that they may or may not think that's part of their journey. So what did you learn in that experience?
Well, first of all, there's great people doing great things, it was just good to just bond with a community of great people. But I also learned that, first of all, doing a TEDx, it's there's a lot of work involved in it. You really have to practice and hone your craft and in speaking and everything. It was very interesting. It was more involved than I thought it would be, but it was really a good challenge in communication, right? Of getting yourself across. I really basically learned that. And here's the kicker. This was my heart about this. I always try to take a player or somebody with me in my group, my young people. And I had like 3 of my young people there, one of my players and 2 of my girls. And they were fussing over me like I fussed over my little girls when they were trying to do gymnastics. You got this. You're going to do great. Let me do your hair.
It's amazing.
My young people were doing that to me. And I thought, this is what it must have been when I was doing it to my children.
But that's what life is about. You've got to have those people in your community.
Yeah, it's great when it's your kids. Yeah.
And, we've got to push each other sometimes too, to maybe think differently, to, you've got to never stop learning. Like, I'm a huge advocate for continuing to learn and pushing yourself on that. I'm taking a financial literacy course, which is so hard. But the reason I'm doing that is because I'm pushing myself. I want to learn, right?
Right.
I'm curious, but it's also pushing me to keep the mind sharp. Okay, so we've got some more questions.
Let me just tell you how I'm pushing my mind.
Okay.
I'm in a class with Dr. Bruce Perry with the neurosequential model about the state of the brain in sports. That's a push.
Okay, I want to dive into that before we.
That is so good. Trust me.
So I want to dive into that before we get to this question. So share a little bit more about that, because that's fascinating. I mean, you're doing so many cool things. That is fascinating to me.
It is, because Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey wrote this book, What Happened to You. Are you familiar with that book?
I am not.
Oh gosh.
But I will drop a comment. So for anybody that's tuning in,
what happened to you?
Okay.
Now, the significance in being a part of his class, the neurosequential model, he connects trauma, brain, and sports, and how you can heal trauma through sports. Somebody, come on. That's amazing. I mean, if I could wave a magic wand, I would use sports to just heal, as many of the young men that I come in contact with, because they need it so bad. But learning from him is just amazing. Learning what brain state, for instance, oh gosh, I take my boys to camp, right? I take 6 teams to camp, not at the same time, 1 team at a time. When they get off the bus, I relieve of the head coach of his duties. This is Coach V's field, right? I relieve them of his duties, and I tell the boys, I want you to go get settled in your room, find your roommates, because they stayed for 2.5 days with me. And the first thing I tell them to do is go play. Play. They play for 4 hours before I bring them back in. Why? Because most of my young men, according to different things that I'm learning, their brain is in a red state: fight, flight, fear, terror, alert. Especially coming off the cities of Philadelphia, where you're always looking over your shoulder and you don't know what's coming at you. You hear a siren and you're on alert, right? When they come to me, which is in the woods, okay, quiet, canoes, birds, they come to me, and the first thing I say is go play. It takes about 4 hours. This is all connected to that neurosequential thing. It takes 4 hours for their brain to start to calm down and get to the point where, okay, I'm safe. There's nothing's going to happen to me. I can just be a kid for a minute. And then after that 4 hours, I bring them back in, right? And I start teaching them how to regulate using words like, you're in your red brain, you need to be in your blue brain. This is how you transition from that red brain state to your blue brain state. And I'm going to tell you something. Last year on the sideline, we got play calls, Omaha, whatever we call, right? They were calling, get in the blue, get in the blue. Why? Because you know why they were calling get in the blue? Because the coach was going off on the referee. The player said, Coach, get in the blue, right?
That's interesting.
It is. Because at camp, I taught them the different brain states and how this is what your brain looks like. You remember a long time ago, I'm telling my age, this is what your brain looks like on drugs on Friday.
Yeah.
Well, this is what your brain looks like when you're unregulated and you're in fear and alert and a terror. It's red, it's on fire. How do we get you from a red brain to a blue brain so that you're calm? And then I hop on the thing of, do you really want to be a really good player? Because understand this, football is not about just brute and strength, right? You need to be critically understanding your assignment, the next man assignment, assuming what they're going to do. Well, you need your cortex for that. You can't get there unless you're in the blue. So now they're kind of interested in being in the cortex, you feel me? Because it's blue. And
whatever I got to do to get there.
Whatever I got to do to play smart, right? Any real football player or any athlete will study and hone in and figure out what the opponent does so that he can, So, I mean, I have a lot going on when it comes to that brain, the newest sequential model from Dr. Perry, and I do it my way. You know what I'm saying? Which is interesting because the way I met him was I was on Twitter going, I've been doing your stuff in the streets for a while, just not like how you do it,
So for anybody that's tuning in that may be in a red state, what are some things? Hopefully they're not, because we're in a lot of joy right now, right?
We are.
But what can they do to transition over to a blue state? And I know that this is very complicated. There's a lot of things that go into this, but what are just some?
The kind of things that I tell my players to do, I do something. So, listening to music. Some people do these things already, but listening to music, preferably with no words, is very good. Like I'll tell a coach, forget all the rap and the cursing, play music with a nice beat and let them just vibe on that, we look at sports, everybody has what they do before the game, right? Some people, they have their earphones on, you know what I mean? Some people may meditate. But what I try to tell my young men is to write down some of the things that makes them, when they're in a calm state, that helps them to continue to be calm. Mm-hmm. If it's talking to a friend, whatever it is that's going to help you to calm yourself down. And that's speaking of mental health, right? Let's just slide right into that. I'm doing this thing right now that with my players is getting the blue warm up. ODAAP naturally has a therapist connected to it as part of our program. So now I'm traveling around with my therapist, with my boys, and we're doing things like, because they don't go for therapy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't do that of themselves.
Well, you've got to meet them on the field, right? Like it's something that you've got to like.
That's the only place you're going to find me. I'm going where they are. They're never going to come to me. I don't even have a building. They're never going to come to me. There's no point in trying to do that. Maybe one day. But I love being on the field anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I'm taking resources to my young men And because they trust me, they allow me to. You see what I'm saying? And it takes a long time for young men and kids to trust you because they know if you're phony. It takes a long time to build trust. I work with some of the same teams for years. I've seen people graduate and come back, and pour into the program. My motto is quality over quantity. I work with the same. Our organization is like, oh, we're reaching thousands of children. Nah, we're reaching about 650 for 4 years straight. You know what I mean? And that's our impact. And I'm happy with that.
Oh my goodness.
You know
okay.
what I mean?
So let's pull up some questions. So we've got Brett popping in here and he says, how do you want people to remember you 30 years from now?
Oh, that I genuinely love them. Seriously, that I genuinely loved them, that they felt loved by me. Honestly, hands down. That's it. They felt loved, not judged. Seriously.
Okay. So Patrick says, wow, Coach V, I commend you for turning a negative into a positive. So this is coming in a little bit, StreamYard's a little bit different on the questions and when they come in sometimes. So do you have victories that stand out in your mind? Any victories that stand out in your mind?
Oh, you're going to make me cry.
Oh my gosh. A lot of tears. I mean,
oh my gosh.
This is
Let me tell you, at my camp, one of the things that I do is around the campfire at night, we got the 3, who's your hero, what's your hardship, and what's your highlight. At nighttime, we're roasting marshmallows and we're going around in the fire and we're all talking about this. And each young man takes a turn. Dag, oh my gosh, I can't take it right now. Each young man takes a turn. And the one night we were together and one of the biggest, tallest guys stands up and he starts talking about who his hero is. Every boy, their mother is their hero. Let's just meditate on that for a minute. Their mothers are their heroes. His hardship was that he had tried to commit suicide by jumping off of a building or a bridge or something because he felt so alone. Now we're in a campfire. There's a whole team there. And he starts to talk and he begins to cry really hard. And all the players immediately get up and they go around him and they're hugging him. And it's like, you're never alone anymore. You're never alone anymore. And then as I look around the campfire, 3 guys are just hugging each other going, the common denominator around that campfire is I'm lonely. That was a first for me. I'm lonely, some depression, but I'm lonely with my young men. And there was that same campfire, same group. There was a young man there for 2 years that I have been trying to reach. And my type of reaching is standing next to you and bumping you and saying, I love you. And that's it. You know what I mean? Because but after 2 years, he had gotten shot. And he had told me that he wasn't going to talk to anybody about it. No therapist, no one. And I said, all right. But around that campfire that night, not only did that young man get embraced by his whole team, he ended up talking about his experience, which was huge for him. If you know anything about anything, trauma like that, you don't talk about that really. And he actually spoke. And not only that, he's very, very quiet. To me, that was the biggest win of my camp. And I had 6 teams there. That was the biggest win of my camp. And that young man, it changed his life. It changed his life. He's doing well in school right now. Their team is the first team that I bought my Get in the Blue warm up to. And, for me, that's everything. It's everything to have that kind of impact on a young person that they're thinking differently about living. So the icing on the cake is at the end of the campfire, we took all a piece of wood and dropped in the fire what we were letting go. And my young man said, I'm letting go depression. At least that was a start, right? And different ones of them walked around and just dropped that in. I'm letting go of this. I'm letting go of that. Oh, it was amazing. And it was one of those things you got to have been here for this.
So I want to ask you, so I'm going to turn it back on you. So what did you learn in that moment about yourself?
Oh gosh. I learned that I have more influence than I think. I learned that it doesn't take a lot to be kind and offer a safe place. I just think I learned that I have more influence than I thought, and that my players are eager to be loved on. They little hard butts. You know what I'm saying? But
Sports is a
but
really interesting community, but
but and even the new guys, like if I've been in with the team for 4 years straight, we have freshmen coming in, and then we have my other young men that have known me for a very long time. And the beautiful thing is I don't have to work hard to win their trust, because everybody else, that's Coach V. That's the end of the story. So okay, that's Coach V. You just follow in. So I don't have to work hard to get the other freshmen's trust. They just fall right in line, and they know, because they're taught by the other boys what to do and not to do.
So how old are these kiddos? So for
High
anybody that's
school.
listening that doesn't know your program, so I want to talk specifically about your program and the camp and exactly what you do with your organization. So they're high school kids.
High school, yep. Although I've worked with Del Valle University, those guys there, and that was great. That was amazing. I got a chance to work with them for a while, and that was great.
So share a little bit. We've kind of like teased it out a little bit, but share specifically about ODAAP. Like, what exactly does your organization do, and how do you leverage the power of sport to make an impact in the lives of these young men?
So open door, this is what ODAAP stands for: Open Door Abuse Awareness Prevention. So we're opening the door for our young men to be aware of what abuse is in order to prevent it. That's basically what we're coming out of. Now, in opening the door to abuse, we naturally are talking about violence prevention, right? And regulation. Again, people do things for a reason, right? So in order for me to do violence prevention, we had to back up a little bit and deal with trauma. What have they experienced that they would even want to do something like that? So ODAAP focuses a lot on trauma-informed care. Now, I know we hear that word a lot, but let me explain what it means for us.
What does that mean for the listeners?
Yeah, let me explain what that means for us, right? It means getting to know the young men that we're working with, actually being aware that there may be more things going on with them than we might know, and coming from that. You see what I'm saying? Like, trauma-informed quick care to me is just not assuming anything about anybody. Yep. Do you know what I'm saying? That they're all right or they're bad. Looking at somebody from a trauma-informed lens, to me, is being aware that there's more to this person than meets the eye, and you need to be sensitive about it. That's the beginning of trauma-informed care to me. Now, I don't know what the book says, but that is to me. And I'm always asking myself, not what's wrong with him, but what happened. And I'm always asking myself, there's probably more to the story, because all we see is the tip of the iceberg. If we can really remember that all we really see is the tip of the iceberg, all of us would be doing trauma-informed care, if that makes sense, right?
If you are tuning in and you're a business leader, entrepreneur, athlete, whatever, whoever you are, remember that. It's so critical. You never know what is going in the lives of other people. You never know. You have no idea. And you can never begin to even understand, right?
Nope.
But coming at it from that perspective provides a lot of power.
Right, because a trauma-informed care person is going to do active listening, right? So we're listening and we're observing. We're not listening to hear ourselves respond. Like, what is this person really saying, right?
Or judging.
Oh, exactly. And so for me, trauma-informed care is really just about not looking just at the tip of the iceberg for anybody and everybody. And I think that's being sensitive to others and where they may or may not be. And so if I walk up to a young man and I'm on the field, a lot of times I go on the field, I'm just standing on the field. That was the other thing. Like, I don't have to solve anybody's problems. But if you come to me and we're talking, first you're going to feel heard, trauma-informed care.
Yep.
It's not that difficult. That's how I see it. That's how I see
Everybody
it.
needs love. Everybody.
Exactly. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it's so true, right?
It is. And
But
how often are you in conversation with anybody, like with people where it's all just on a basis of love
and
and
how
not
about how often you in conversation with people where you really get a sense that they're listening to you
Yep.
and they care about what you're saying?
Yep.
A kid knows that. So ODAAP, just back to us a little bit, the way we operate, quality over quantity. We do not love them and leave them. That's our core values, right? So I'll work with a coach if he's recommended by another coach that I'm already working with.
Mm.
Again, I'm not running around the country trying to work with everybody, right? Because I'm when you coach, I'm a little, different when it comes to working with kids and coaches. My coaches will tell you, if you brought one of my coaches on this show, you know what he would say, and I'm only going to repeat what they say. Well, I'm a different man. I'm a different man. That's what they would say. Because inadvertently, every time I'm talking to my boys, I'm talking to my coaches too. Now I'm gonna tell y'all a story. Now, this is what it's like to work with Coach V. So one of my young men, right? We're on the field, and one of my young men is turning 18. And so he comes up to me and says, Coach V, I'm going to the strip club for my birthday. Now, most of the team heard him say that to me. And I said, oh, is that right? All of a sudden, all of a sudden, all of a sudden, the team came around. You would think it was a huddle. They wanted to know my response to that. Okay. And I said, okay, you going to the strip club? I said, all right. Here I am, I'm like, so only reason he's 18 years old, he's going to the strip club. I said, well, I just want you to understand something, son. Even if you go to the strip club or wherever you go, real relationships aren't like that. Okay. I don't want you objectifying women as though, nothing having to do with woman that's stripping. That's her livelihood. That's what she's doing. I have nothing to say about that. All I'm saying to you is that your relationship that you get into is not going to be necessarily like all of that. Okay. So until you're really able to have your faculties trained enough to understand the difference, I would encourage you to, just remember that. Then I turned to my coach and I said, we're talking about pornography on Monday. Do you hear me? I'm sorry. Was I not supposed to say that? Why? Why would I do that?
For people that are tuning in, because we actually have a lot of sports people that are like starting to put in comments and things to that nature. That level of transparency,
shoot, I was like, we talking
is
about
so critical and necessary to these young kids.
Out there, boys. Look, I said we're talking about Coach Jock. We're talking about pornography on Monday. He's like, oh, Coach V, like, why we got to go into this? And I'm like, because here's the deal with ODAAP, we get 15 minutes a week. We're not even asking for a lot of time. You can put us anywhere you want in your schedule, but they're my 15 minutes. And whatever I think is going to bring awareness to my young men, I bring it in the room. That's my 15 minutes. Coaches happen to be there, and I give them assignments about different topics. And again, it's that butterfly effect. I mean, I don't know I'm just sorry, guys, if this isn't something you want to hear, but this is real talk when it comes to domestic violence, sexual assault, how to treat women and girls or your significant others. I don't want my young men having this misconception about stuff.
It's powerful.
It's not real life.
Nope.
And so my coaches, they're like, oh gosh, Coach V, I'm like, well, let's do a holistic thing with our young men. You know what I mean? I'm trying to prevent them from objectifying and all this stuff. I can't do that unless we're talking about real things.
It's powerful.
I'm sorry, Amanda, if I wasn't supposed to say that.
No, it's powerful. And these conversations, so for people that are tuning in that have not tuned in before, these are raw conversations.
Very raw, everybody.
We, the value of this is bringing on amazing people to share stories, but to bring awareness on certain topics within sports. And the topic around mental health in sport is so critical right now.
Let's not talk about locker room talk, right?
No. Because it's not just the locker room. You know, you see all of these organizations that are really struggling with sexual assault in sport. I mean, there's so much going on. It's
I don't want my young men to. I'm trying to prepare my young men for the next stage of their lives. And I work with young women too, but them too, the next stage in life. Anything that I know or think about that they're going to walk into that they have no clue about. You know, I mean, why do we have some of the people that we do in sports having such, like, they need preparation, and ODAAP does that for the teams that we work with. We prep them for stuff. We really do. First of all, what makes you tick and why are you doing what you're doing? How you can regulate transitioning from the red to the blue, your brain state. What makes you tick? You know what I'm saying? What happened to you? Why are you the way you are? You know, and helping coaches understand. And this is something I've learned from Dr. Perry, which I thought was really dope. 55% of your communication to your player is just your face. Just your face, your expression. That's all.
Wow.
And then 38 is your tone. And then 7 is your words. So if you're on the sideline and you're yelling at your player, I just want to inform you, all they're looking at is your face. They don't hear a word you say.
That goes to parents too.
Yeah, of course.
I'm a parent of a travel soccer mom, and I will tell you, I've been guilty of this before too. But yelling at your kids on the sideline does nothing. They can't hear you. It does nothing positive for their game, period.
It's totally, the brain can't even handle 3 conversations at the same time. I was telling the coach the other day, look, you're yelling out of play. He's yelling out of play. They believe in their mind that because they're different positions or something, that the players can hear that. They cannot hear that. It's just noise to them. It's just noise. Literally, it's just noise. They were like, what? You got a helmet to boot. You know, really? They're not listening to you, coach. You throwing things around and they're not hearing a word you're saying. Don't you understand their brain can't even register it right now? It's just not happening.
Not happening.
You know, I love it on the sideline when you just hold up a piece of paper or a sign. You know what I mean? That's the best way to communicate to a player. That's it. Not yelling and screaming. That's the best way to do it.
I'm taking notes on that one.
That's the best way to do it.
Oh,
I'm telling you, that's the best way to do it.
So I'm so curious. What is it like being a woman on the sidelines working with young men? There's so many conversations around women in sports. So I want to bring a little bit of awareness to this topic, specifically around what are your experiences with being a woman on the sidelines, specifically working with young men?
Well, the young men are like sons to me, so that's not a problem. You know what I mean? It's the coaches that are a little bit interesting, I should say. I have very dope coaches. I will say that. Let me just say that out the gate. I have some great coaches, hands down, great coaches. And I also should say that I've been married for 37 years to my husband. So I really know when to talk and when not to. I've learned that over the 30 years that I've been married. And I basically do the same thing with my coaches. I really do. Like, I really do. Like, I know he's off the handle right now. I'm not going to approach him because he can't handle it. I will not talk to him right now. I won't talk to him. It's interesting because I stand on the sideline taking in a lot of things all at once. Mm-hmm. I'm aware of my young men and what's going on with them. If somebody comes off the field and he's having a hard time and he's losing it, you know what I mean? I look to try to regulate him, right? If my coach is on the sideline and they're having a hard time, I decide right then and there if I can approach them or if I can't. So it's always this balancing act on the sideline, you know? It's a balancing act, what to do and what not to do. And when it's just, I got to do it, I don't care what happens. You know what I mean? What if you yell and scream at me? So what? I'm not wimpy. I can handle that. You know, we're going to talk about that later though, you know, but it's interesting, you know, a lot of people, and long as I got the head coach, by the way, it doesn't bother me any of the other coaches. Sometimes the head coach is really bought into our program, and his field is my field. But then you have the other coaches that are sometimes like, why is this woman here? Like, why do we have to listen to this? And in cases like that, I might get a little pushback, but as long as the head coach is there and he's insisting that our program is there, I can live past that. The minute a head coach that I'm working with leaves that team, I don't want to leave that team. But a lot of times I find it difficult to accept a program like mine with me as a leader of it, especially if you're very, very old school. Very, like, I'll go to coaches' clinics.
Define old school. So for anybody that's listening that may not be super aware, like familiar with like a sports team or an environment.
People who really don't think women should be a part of sports. Let me case in point. I went to a coaches' clinic, Glazier Coaches Clinic, to brush up on some plays and whatnot. The floor that the Glazier Clinic was being held, they had closed all the bathrooms down. They were all men bathrooms. No women bathrooms were open. Why? Because they didn't expect women to come. I'm like, I need to go to the bathroom. What? All of them are for the men? What? I go into a room, one of the coaches, and he starts to talk about the plays, defining this and that. And then he stops and says, well, we have a lady in here, so we can't curse. And after being patronized enough, I'm like, excuse me, I'm a coach, you're a coach. Can you just teach? It's just like, come on, man. For real? Just teach. So, I mean, it gets to be like that, When I say old school, far as I'm concerned, people like that are old school. They need to get with the times. Stop acting like women don't want to learn ball, anyway. Sports
a great place for women to be.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And I will say this too. We're great nurturers, and they need it.
They do.
Our players, my players, they need a nurturer around them. It's a great balance. One of my coaches says I'm yin and yang. We're yin and yang.
Okay, we're coming up on time. I could literally talk to you all day. There's so much that we could dive into. I want to pull some more of these questions back in. So Jason is asking, what style of leadership resonates with you the most and why?
Servant leadership. I'm going to tell you straight up, servant leadership. If you are not going to model what you say, be quiet. Just don't do it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't tell the players to be men of integrity while you lead your team. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go there.
Well, but this is in everything, right? This is not just on the field. This is
everything. Model it. Model your leadership.
These kids are watching.
You must, Like,
I don't think people realize how intently these kids are watching.
Oh my gosh, please.
And how much these kids take from every single conversation, every single person they encounter, every single experience they have. It's a lot.
It's a lot. They're taking in a whole lot, They're great. I hold not. There's lots of great coaches out here. Great coaches doing great things. And I would like to shadow them and learn more from them, But I think a servant, Tony Dungy, I've read his books, about leadership. And I just go back to him over and over again. I mean, because he was a man that I just love him. I love the way he led his team. I just love him. And so I've learned a lot from that. I've gleaned a lot from his works, his writings about leadership. And I think it's.
Have you met him or worked with him before?
No, I've never met him or worked with him, but I like his books I've been reading.
So if anybody's tuning in that knows Tony Dungy.
Tony Dungy's a great guy.
Make the connection happen.
That'd be amazing.
You never know who's listening. Okay, so here's another question that pops up. Actually, let's go to this one. So Jason asked another question. as a CEO of ODAAP, is there anything that keeps you up at night?
Not knowing if the guy what keeps me up at night, honestly. And I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't want to bury another player. It keeps me up at night every time I leave the field. That's how much I love my guys. You know what I mean? And it's so volatile right now in Philly. Right now, that's keeping me up. You know what I mean? It really is. Like, I can't wait to get on the field. Even though a bullet has no name, the truth is you could be on the field and something could pop off, right? But that's where I want to be.
It's got to stop.
I want to be. I want to be with my guys, and I want to offer a ray of normalcy, right? Some kind of consistency, right, with my guys. That really keeps me up. I hold not, that really keeps me up. Especially lately, I find myself just like praying. I don't want to bury another player. I really don't. I don't.
Okay, one more question. What difference has having a strong community played in terms of your approach to life, discipline, and interaction with others?
A strong community, what difference has it played? Well, with football and anything like that, saying that we have each other's back, right? Knowing that others have my back when it comes to the work that I'm doing, it gives me courage to keep going. Not only that, when I see my community of my young men coming together, right? And they're focused on something, whether it's feeding the homeless or just loving on each other, like then in the circle of the campfire, like that. That to me is my community that keeps me going, that fortifies me to say, yeah, let's go another day with this. Let's get this work done. Let's go. So it's those moments that I'm fortified. It keeps me going. Seeing them, like, it's just amazing to me. I hope I answered that question.
Once again, we could keep on, and I absolutely hate to get off this conversation. I would so love to keep the conversations going. Like, the work that you're doing is so critical. It is so important. It is so needed. And I'm so blessed that people like you have come into my life and that we've had the opportunity to share your voice on our platform. I mean, how can people, so if somebody's tuning in and wants to get in contact with you or wants to support the work that you're doing, what are the best way that those people can reach out to you?
Through the website, number one. And I'm going to tell you what ODAAP needs right now, what we really need is to be able to hire more people to be trained to be a Coach V, to be quite honest. When you're in a nonprofit, you get a lot of program money, money that's dedicated to a thing or a service. But there's not so much unrestricted funds where you can hire somebody. I would love to be able to say, I could hire somebody for the upcoming year to train them to be another advocate for a team. My dream is to have all of my teams have a committed advocate, just like me, loving on them, period. And it's hard to do that, right now where we are. So, that's another reason why we don't expand right now. That's another reason why we just kind of here, and that's okay. But if I had my way, oh my gosh, I would like to train people in what we do and start little ODAPs all over the place. Little spawns of ODAP.
So if anybody's tuning in that's an athletic director or even a student athlete, you've mentioned Instagram. What are the
ODAAPINC.
Okay.
ODA.
So the platforms. So Instagram is ODAAP.
ODAAPINC.
Okay.
And it's the same on Twitter, by the way. We make it really easy. And then, of course, if you want to put up our website, it's ODAAP.org. Yep, that's our website. So you can always go there and find out what we're doing and what's new and donate if you have any desire to. And trust and believe, guys, if you donate to ODAAP, every last bit of it is going back into the work. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, we've had people come visit our camp because we have camp every July, and help, like cook, serve the guys. You know what I mean? Like, we're open to that kind of thing. Come see what we do. Like, come see what we do. Just get in touch with us. We'd love to have you.
I can't thank you enough for joining in on a conversation and just sharing, all this amazing stuff. I think bringing awareness to all the work that you're doing is so critical. And, for anybody that's tuning in, definitely share the work that Coach V is doing. Share the website, share this recording to the conversation. I think it's something that people need to hear and need to have awareness into. And any last thoughts or words that you would love to leave with people?
Acts of kindness go a long way. That's what I'm going to say. Acts of kindness go a long way. It is not that complicated. That's what I'm going to leave everybody with. Seriously. That's what I'm going to leave everybody.
Well, thank you again for tuning in. I'm so grateful for you. For everybody else that's listening, thank you for listening in on the conversation. Reach out, connect with Coach V, share the work that she is doing, and thank you for listening in on the conversation. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
And love each and every one of you. There's a lot of people that have dropped some amazing questions and comments. So thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you again.
Bye, everybody.